Welcome to the Samurai 1 to 100 Leveling Skills Guide. I'll be going over all of your skills as you train to be the storm that is approaching, better than the rest of them, but also hopefully kill your enemies along the way. Watch as you go from this to this. This is a beginner-focused series, aimed to help those new to Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO genre, or still just need a little help. In that same vein, this will be focused on your actions and how to use them. We'll not be going deep into optimization, instead focused on the general play and giving general opening rotations. We will go through these together in order to help new players understand the process. If you wish to push your play further, there are further places you could research the job. The goal here is to drop players in on the ground level so they can make strides to improve themselves. Tooltips are broken up by expansion and that expansion's level cap. So level 50 for A Realm Reborn, 60 for Heaven's Ward, 70 for Stormblood, 80 for Shadowbringers, 90 for Endwalker, and our final level cap of 100 in Dawntrail. I recommend all players add Sprint and Limit Break to their hotbars, both found in the General tab of the Actions menu. And as for how my hotbars build, it'll make sense at 100. Just put your skills on your hotbars so that you are comfortable as you play. Everyone has their own way of doing things. If you want more info on the how and why I set up my UI, check the description for a video about it. Finally, keep in mind that this is an active MMO. Patches can and will change jobs. Check the description for a quick overview of each patch's changes or special notes. With all that out of the way, please support me in whatever way you can, check my links below, and let's begin. Samurai is the melee DPS job all about doing big damage. You're fast too, but are the arguably slowest of the fast melee. That doesn't mean Samurai isn't plenty busy, a resource you generate quickly and must constantly spend, along with different types of attacks that are all very powerful. You lack almost any way to support your allies, instead being the one everyone looks to buff, so you put out as much damage as you can. Your combos let you use Iaijutsu, some of your most consistently used big attacks. These come with short cast times to accentuate their power. To obtain the Samurai job, you must complete your level 10 class quest and be level 50. That's it! The Stormblood expansion is base game now. Have these requirements met, head to the old Aetheryte Plaza, and the quest will be right outside. We have an entire set of role actions to deal with. You want these on your hotbars. I won't be going over them here. In the corner or in the description is a video all about these skills. I recommend it as they are an extension of your toolkit. Let's get into the finer details of each skill. Samurai starts at level 50, so we have a few skills by default. Level 1 Hakaze, level 4 Jinpu, and level 30 Gekko. This is our first basic combo. Combos are done in order, or they aren't as effective. The buttons light up to show you the next button in the combo. The lights can mean other stuff too though, so don't assume it's always a combo. As far as combos, I won't be talking about the potency of using a hit outside of combos. As for this combo, it has a couple of different things to go over. Hakaze is a basic GCD doing 180 potency of damage to a target. This leads into Jinpu, a 260 potency hit to a target. This has a bonus, granting you Fugetsu for 40 seconds. Fugetsu is a damage buff, increasing all damage you deal by 10% for 40 seconds. This is important to maintain at all times. We end on Gekko, which has two effects. It has a rear positional, which means it does extra damage when attacking an enemy from behind. The rear is denoted on screen by the picture shown now. The attack does 310 potency, 360 with the positional. With or without the positional, you will gain Getsu, the moon icon on what is called the Sen gauge. Getsu is one of 3 Sen, which we will use later. Level 1, Hakaze, level 18 Shifu, and level 40, Kasha. This is the second combo. Both combos are starting with Hakaze, and you can continue into either after Hakaze. Shifu is the partner to Jinpu, doing 260 potency. Shifu grants us the buff Fuga. Fuga reduces cast time, recast time, and auto attack delay by 10%, also for 40 seconds. This is the buff that makes Samurai a faster job. 10% faster GCD timers is significant. Like Fugetsu, you want to keep this buff up at all times. Ending on Kasha, the partner to Gekko, does 310 potency or 360 with the positional. However, Kasha is a flank positional. Flanks are the sides of the enemy, and once again shown on screen with their picture's red portions. This gives the Sen of Ka the flower of our Sen gauge. Level 1 Hakaze, and level 50 Yukikaze. For the third time, the combo starts with Hakaze, which branches off 3 ways. Yukikaze is the final branch, doing 280 potency of damage to a target. It has no buffs, but grants Setsu, the Snow Sen. This combo has the benefit of only being 2 hits long for a Sen, which will be important for mastery of the toolkit. Level 26, Fuga, level 35, Mangetsu, and level 45, Oka. This is our set of AoE, Area of Effect, GCDs. These are the skills we want to use when there are 3 or more enemies you can hit. Fuga is basic, doing an 8-yom conal AoE in the direction of your current target. This is a big cone. It does 90 potency to all enemies hit. Then it combos into Mangetsu and Oka. Mangetsu and Oka are both counterparts to Gekko and Kasha, but also Jinpu and Shifu. Mangetsu will grant you the 10% damage buff of Fugetsu and the Moon Sen. Oka grants the 10% speed boost and the Flower Sen. Both attacks do 120 potency of damage to targets in a 5-yom radius around yourself. Because of how these work, you want to alternate the combos. This keeps your buffs refreshed at all times and gets you both Sen. There is no AoE way to obtain Setsu meanwhile. We wouldn't want it though, as we only want 2 Sen during AoE. This will be clear when we talk about what Sen are for. When it comes to hitting enemies, you have to dive in and out of enemy groups. If you're in the middle of a large group of enemies, Fuga will only hit half of them, so you want to be point blank next to the group so the cone hits them all. The opposite is true of the circles. They have a smaller radius than the cone, so being surrounded will maximize the effect. It's not that hard a dance to perform, and actually makes it more fun. Practice it now while things are simple, just beware of standing in enemy AoEs. Level 50, Meikyo Shisui. On a 55-second cooldown, this removes all combo requirements from both your single target and AoE GCDs, lasting for 20 seconds or for the next 3 weapon skills. You can skip right to Yukikaze, Gekko, Kasha, Oka, and Mangetsu and get all normal benefits. Full potency, Sen, and all associated buffs. Normally, Gekko and Kasha don't give us any buffs. When under Meikyo Shisui, using Gekko and Kasha will now grant Fugetsu and Fuga respectively. In openers, this massively speeds up our buffing and ability to get into our full damage. We don't need to do full combos just to get our buffs running. That's simply all to know for now. Use it on cooldown where you can, and then use it to get 3 Sen. Always use the combo ending skills, not the first or second hits. Just note that I said Meikyo works for the next 3 weapon skills specifically. Not all of your attacks are listed as such, and only those 5 I named will benefit from Meikyo. Luckily, Iaijutsu is not included, which we'll go over now. Level 30, 40, and 50, Iaijutsu. Iaijutsu changes based on how many different Sen you have. That's 1, 2, or all 3. At level 30, we only have access to 1 Sen. At 40, we have 2 Sen, and at 50, we have all 3 available. The Iaijutsu button will change as you gather Sen. It does not matter which Sen they are, all that matters is the count. So let's talk about the actual skills Iaijutsu become. Also keep in mind, all Iaijutsu have a cast time of 1.8 seconds, so learning the technique of slide casting will be very useful. Level 30, Higanbana. Our strongest single target attack is Higanbana, needing 1 Sen. It does a 200 potency hit to a target and applies a dot to the target. That's damage over time. It does 45 potency of damage for a whole minute, 60 seconds. Dots work on a server tick, meaning it does damage every 3 seconds. With a 60-second timer, that's 20 hits or a 900 potency dot. In total, that's 1100 potency for the full duration. That's a really long timer. It means you only need to worry about it every minute. On the bad side, you need to consider if the enemy will last long enough. If it doesn't live for at least a little while, it might not be worth using. Really though, this is mostly just for boss fights or the occasional mini-boss. Normal enemies almost never last long enough for Higanbana to be worth it. Bosses will get 2 or even 3 uses of Higanbana before it dies. Refresh the dot when it falls off, and you think the enemy will live long enough to benefit. If not, we have another option. Level 40, Tenka Goken. This is why our AoE does not have a way to get Setsu, only Getsu and Ka. It requires 2 Sen of any type, and is an AoE itself. It does 300 potency to all enemies in an 8 yom radius around you. That's quite a bit bigger than Oka and Mangetsu. If you're fighting 3 or more enemies, there's no reason not to use Tenka Goken. Your enemies won't survive for Higanbana's duration, and it's stronger on 3 enemies than our third Iaijutsu. Just to reiterate though, alternate your AoE attacks to get 2 sen, then throw out Tenka Goken. Level 50, Midare Setsugekka. Requiring all 3 sen, this does 620 potency of damage instantly to a target. It's also a guaranteed critical hit that gets stronger under any critical hit rate buffs. One such example is Dragoon's Battle Litany. If you're fighting a group, you're using Tenka Goken. 1 or 2 enemies, you're going to do massive chunks of damage with Midare. If you already have Higanbana up on a boss, keep throwing out Midares instead. Remember, it's a balancing act. If the enemy won't last long, you just skip Higanbana to go right to Midare. But if you just started a boss, or it's not even halfway dead, throw on Higanbana and then get to Midare. Higanbana is stronger after at least 30 seconds. That's the overall main loop of Samurai. Use your combos to generate sen, then spend those sen on Iaijutsu. Tenka Goken for AoE, Higanbana for bosses, and Midare for when Higanbana is already up, or the enemy won't live long enough. A lot more gets added to this core loop, but it's key you get used to using Iaijutsu and the cast times involved now. It's not a lot of casting, but 1.8 seconds is essentially a full cast time in this early phase. One more important detail, if you're mid-combo for whatever reason, you can Iaijutsu without it breaking the combo. This will come into play with the intensity of AoE. Tenka Goken will not break the combo after Fuga. Place your combos in a good position around your bar, and you can easily keep track of your sen without the gauge. Before we build any openers, we have some more skills to go over. Level 6, Third Eye. On a short 15-second cooldown, you are given a shield buff for an impressive 4 seconds. It reduces the damage of a singular attack by 10% before disappearing. This sounds absolutely terrible, but it's due to a lack of proper framing, and an upgrade in 2 levels. That upgrade actually will boost our damage. Get used to using it now even at lower levels, since even just a mitigation is good to have around. If nothing else, this will help you survive in solo content, a little bit of extra survival for the job that has some difficult job quests. As for using it in parties, it's a bit easier to make sure it's a significant help. You still have to time it, but bosses have consistent spots for using Third Eye. If a boss is doing some form of raid-wide attack, or is targeting you for a mechanic, or any other potential damage, you can Third Eye to defend against it. Later on, you can almost always tell when one of these is coming with the enemy cast bar. Remember the name of an attack, and you can always mitigate it. Overall, it's a simple skill with a simple usage, but it can be of much bigger benefit than what the skill description makes it out to be. It's never gonna give you a big help against a group of enemies, but bosses you'll be reducing some big hits. This is especially important in harder content. Level 15, Enpi. A button we want to avoid at all costs. It does a measly 100 potency of damage to a target. You can use this from up to 20 yalms away, making this a ranged attack option, or just stand in melee range. Many players see they have a ranged option and feel like the game will lead them to use it a lot, when most of the time it wasn't needed. They could have stayed next to the boss and avoid any damage. In the cases where you absolutely must run away from the enemy or boss for more than half a second, you can use Enpi for a bit of extra damage. Just make sure you're actually needing to move away from the boss. Being targeted by an AoE is not cause to walk away. An AoE on an ally is not cause to walk away. A boss-centered AoE that is bigger than max melee range is cause to walk away, but only right before the cast finishes. On the plus side, Enpi will not break your combos. Let's start talking about openers. Our toolkit at 50 is very basic, to the point that it's mostly just going through the motions of your rotation. We're gonna Meikyo Shisui to get a free Iaijutsu, and then just keep going. Pre-pull, Meikyo Shisui, True North, Gekko, Kasha, Yukikaze, Midare Setsugekka, Hakaze, Yukikaze, Higanbana. The main question to answer here is why we start with Midare and use Higanbana second. The big reason is abusing that Meikyo Shisui applies Fugetsu and Fuga. Up to 14 seconds before starting the fight, you can start Meikyo and still have time for all 3 GCDs. This makes our first 2 attacks give both buffs, and getting both running sooner is better. Since we're already at 2 sen from applying our buffs, we go into Yukikaze just to get the 3rd sen and use Midare. After this, we can immediately push to apply Higanbana with the normal Yukikaze combo. It's the shortest combo, getting Higanbana running fast. From there, we'll just keep hitting all 3 of our combos one after another to keep getting Midare casts. Then about every minute, we can Meikyo Shisui for another extra Midare, also signaling that we have to reapply Higanbana soon. We'll have more reasons for this start as we get to higher levels. Also keep in mind that, after the opener, you're likely going to get Meikyo off of cooldown mid-combo or with some sen already gained. Finish that combo, hit Meikyo, and be careful not to overwrite your sen. If you just used Gekko, don't Gekko again until after you use Iaijutsu. The only other note right now is True North right before you pull. Because your first attack is a positional, you're going to end up hitting the front or side of the boss. True North removes any worry about your positionals, so it's worth hitting. I also want to talk about an AoE opener, while mentioning that this isn't a simple answer like single target. AoE is far more complex a situation, and the reasons why will grow as we level. For now, you may have noticed, most tanks don't just grab one enemy, they grab multiple groups, meaning you don't want to go ham until the tank stops spawning enemies. This doesn't mean do nothing though. We can spam AoE attacks and build up sen. This makes it that the moment our tank stops running, we have Tenka Goken available. Plus, both of our buffs are running. The chip damage isn't all that important, and using single target attacks can be hell while moving. So AoEs will allow us to get hits in while not needing to aim. So we'll have 2 sen and both buffs running as the tank stops. Once the enemies are all in place, open with Tenka Goken. Meikyo can be weaved immediately before, giving us 1.5 Tenka Gokens worth of GCDs. Remember that Iaijutsu do not spend stacks of the Meikyo buff. Do one final combo to get a 3rd Tenka. Just remember not to start your Tenka spam until the tank groups everything together. Our starting toolkit is very basic, but we have a fraction of our job mechanics. Heavensward is going to be the true start to our toolkit. Level 52, Kenki Mastery. We now have a sword gauge, the Kenki gauge. Certain attacks will now grant you Kenki in multiples of 5, with a max of 100 for the gauge. Gekko, Kasha, Enpi, Oka, and Mangetsu will give us 5 Kenki each. Yukikaze will grant us 10 Kenki for using it. Third Eye will grant us 10 Kenki if the shield is hit. So now Third Eye can be a decent damage boost. Without Third Eye gains, it takes an entire 3 combos to get 20 Kenki in single target, and 4 combos in AoE. You could do the Yukikaze combo twice, but that means you will lose the Snow Sen if you don't spend it first. So as a result, Gekko, Kasha, and Yukikaze combo leads to 20 Kenki. This isn't even enough for our main spender. Level 52, Hissatsu Shinten. I will not be using the Hissatsu part of skill names to prevent confusion. Pay more attention to the ending part, as there are 6 different Hissatsu skills. Shinten is your Kenki dump. If you are getting high on your Kenki gauge, Shinten to spend some of it. With a near instant 1-second cooldown, it costs 25 Kenki and deals 250 potency of damage to a single target. You don't need to spend all Kenki instantly though. You can pool resources to use it during a burst phase or such. If you see you're at, say, past 50 gauge or higher, you're pretty safe to use a Shinten. Weave it in wherever you need to for extra damage and not wasting any gauge. Level 54, Hissatsu Gyoten, and level 56, Hissatsu Yaten. I'm putting these together due to how they relate. They're essentially partners, both cost 10 Kenki, and do 100 potency of damage. They both are movement tools, one for getting in, and the other for getting out. Gyoten has a 5-second cooldown, and Yaten 10 seconds. Gyoten has a range of 20 yalms and is a gap closer. You rush at the target and immediately get into melee range. This makes for a good tool when the tank has no breaks and is rushing ahead even by normal standards. If nowhere else, in wall-to-wall pulls, a good tank will be moving fast. Bad tanks will take it too far and use the gap closers, forcing you to use Gyoten if you don't want to fall behind. Yaten is the opposite. It has a 5 yalm range and launches you away from the enemy by 10 yalms. This makes escaping from large AoEs around a boss much easier and safer, even if a bit niche. The better you get, the more you tend to greed your attacks and get into dangerous positions. This can save you from that greed. You are also granted Enhanced Enpi. This boosts Enpi's power to a much higher 260 potency of damage. If you're in any situation where you've wanted Yaten, you probably should also use Enhanced Enpi. Treat this like a combo, even if one button is OGCD and the other is GCD. The fact you can weave Yaten in means you lose no uptime either. Use these for their movement capabilities. Mastery and proper usage of these skills will lead to a lot more damage, but it is a bit of a journey to get there. Funnily enough, these are also just as strong as Shinten for their cost. 10 Kenki is 100 potency. Level 60, Meditate. This is one of 2 skills locked behind a job quest. You really need to go get your job quests done. Having a full toolkit is always important to have. There's a notification in the top left to indicate a quest-locked skill. The other is at 70. On a 60-second cooldown, Meditate forces you to stand still and cancels auto-attack upon starting. If you move at all when starting Meditate, or at any point during the meditation animation, the skill will end. You must stay still and not act. For up to 15 seconds, you can sit there and generate Kenki. It only works mid-combat, and gives you 10 Kenki every 3 seconds, for a total of 50 Kenki. You can only use this in combat, but you can't move during it or the skill ends? That sounds like a contradiction, but isn't. This is for when there is downtime. By now you have seen plenty of bosses who will disappear from the arena and do an ultimate attack. While they are gone or unable to be damaged, use Meditate. This is worth up to 2 extra Shintens. You will be able to use it on any Kenki spender though. Put this out of the way so you don't use it by accident, but somewhere you can hit the moment you get downtime in a fight. This was a very Kenki-focused expansion. Due to how we get so little Kenki, we can't do much with it yet. It's to the point I don't feel the need to go through the opener. Just make sure you use Shinten when you have 25 Kenki, which would happen after the second Yukikaze. AoE kinda got a bigger change. In AoE pulling, I recommend doing AoEs for preparing a Tenka Goken and getting our buffs running. Now we'll also build Kenki, which will give us a good few extra Shintens. I'll talk about this again at 70, as we can't really make use of this yet in AoE. Let's move into Stormblood skills where we'll actually see a change in the opener. Level 62, Kenki Mastery II. We go from starving to drowning in Kenki. All main weapon skills that are not Iaijutsu have been given an added 5 Kenki. What before was a full 3 combos being with 20 Kenki is now 60 Kenki. 20 Kenki for each combo string. AoE is only 15 per combo, but shorter combos. This will lead you to capping your Kenki without actively trying to spend it. You will need to Shinten a lot more often to keep your Kenki levels from hitting 100. Level 62, Hissatsu Kyuten. This is the AoE version of Shinten. Kyuten is a 5-yalm AoE around yourself, doing 120 potency of damage to all enemies around you. It costs the same 25 Kenki. This follows the same rule your AoE has followed since we started. Start using AoE on 3 or more enemies. Any less and Shinten is the better option. Keep yourself above water and spend your Kenki in AoE. Level 66, Way of the Samurai. This is a basic power boost with poor wording. Hakaze is now 200 potency. Jinpu and Shifu are 120 potency, but that is the non-combo potency. It did increase the combo potency by 20 though. They are now 280 potency each. Minor boost, but it exists. Level 68, Hagakure. This is a very confusing skill to wrap your head around, but can be useful. Due to changes in Dawntrail, the way you use this has shifted by quite a lot. In past, samurai would try to stick to 60-second loops that often required filler skills. The way this is done in Dawntrail has shifted off of Hagakure and onto Meikyo Shisui, being used earlier than you'd expect. Our overall rotation by level cap is longer now, so we purely have to time that early Meikyo by watching the Higanbana timer. Instead, we'll talk entirely about how we use it in downtime, dungeon content especially. Hagakure is a reset button for your sen. Consider the following situation. You just finished a boss and you hit 3 sen. You are now moving to the next pack of trash mobs of the dungeon, with Midare Setsugekka ready to go. Midare is a single target skill, but the tank is pulling multiple packs of enemies. Wall to wall means there's a lot of enemies. Hagakure will turn every sen into 10 Kenki instantly. Instead of using that Midare, you can turn it into a free Kyuten. That 3 sen is 30 Kenki, or a Kyuten with 5 left over. Kyuten is 120 potency per enemy, stronger than Midare on 6 or more enemies, plus not spending the GCD time Midare would take. Without Hagakure, you have to use that Midare on something just to be able to use Tenka Goken. With it, that's no longer an issue you need to solve. The entire group of enemies is a danger in trash pools, so while Midare would take down one enemy really fast, it's less useful than taking down the entire group a little faster. The idea works in the reverse too. If you have 1 or 2 sen when getting to a boss, this could be awkward for doing your normal opener. Hagakure before starting the fight to do your opener from the beginning. Now, the better you get at Samurai, the less this is useful. A lot of the time, going into a boss with sen prepared can be a good thing, but we're not in the market for min-maxing dungeons. It's very good for comfort otherwise. The same tactics I just listed can also be used for downtime. When a boss can't be hit, you're going to meditate. In higher end content, you're going to expect this and dump all your Kenki ahead of time. You'll hit Hagakure to reset, since you'll need to reapply your buffs if the downtime is long enough, and then meditate. This is at most 80 Kenki, just under the cap. Yeah, it's a bit of a high concept, very specific, but it has uses even casually. You're not missing overly much if you don't incorporate it, but that reset after a boss is common enough a situation to keep around, I say. Level 68, Ikishoten. With a long 2-minute cooldown, this instantly increases your Kenki by 50. Remember how we were already drowning in Kenki? Well, in burst phases every 2 minutes, you're going to be drowning even more. Simply put though, it just does what it says on the tin. Just make sure you're using it for AoE too. 2 whole Q10s to tear down the mob pack. The only other notable bit is that this can only be used while in combat. You must get aggro on something before the skill will light up for use. This isn't really something to worry about, but something to note for specific situations. Level 70, Hissatsu Guren. This is our other quest-locked skill. If you were underwhelmed by Meditate, this one makes up for it. On a 2-minute cooldown, same as Ikishoten, this does a line AoE in the direction of your target. It is a 10 yalm line, doing 500 potency to the first target, and 375 potency to all enemies beyond the first. That's a strong hit. On as few as 3 enemies, that's already over 1000 potency. When you use Guren, hit as many enemies as you can. With the aforementioned wall-to-wall pulls, this is huge damage. The issue is the shape. Fuga is a cone, and will help in aiming Guren, but Oka, Mangetsu, and Kyuten are all circles, making you move in. Now you need to also aim a line while doing that back and forth. It can be a bit awkward, but just takes some getting used to. You've been practicing the in and out dance for a while, so it should be easy enough. This isn't just for AoE though. It's obviously better that way, but you'll be using this no matter how many targets, at least for the next 2 levels. Double the potency, but the same cost as Shinten. If you can throw it on a boss, do it. Especially in the case of trials, what else are you gonna use it on? There's only one boss to hit for maybe even the whole fight. So now we can go over a new opener. We have actual Kenki generation and major skills from Stormblood. It's not much more, but it's enough of a difference. It is much busier from how much Kenki we gain naturally, and the 50 from Ikishoten. We leave this first weave bare for a potion window in high-end content, and probably make sure Ikishoten is available to use. Because Ikishoten is only available in combat, it takes a tiny moment to become available. Samurai doesn't have a lot of weaving overall, so we can easily afford to keep double weaves to a minimum. Or in our case, none. Partly this is due to the cast times of Iaijutsu. Otherwise, that's it. A bit of Kenki management. Once you get past Higanbana, we're still just doing our normal combos to put out as many Midares as we can. Every minute we'll have a Meikyo and a refresh for Higanbana. As far as AoE, things do get a bit more interesting. Consider how much Kenki you will earn just from spamming AoE along the way. You might end up with a good amount, potentially too much. I have us start with Ikishoten, but if you have 50 or more Kenki when you start to burst, you'll want to use a Q10 first. We still have Meikyo right before Tenka Goken, since that won't waste one of your hits. From there we want to spam Kenki. Start with Guren due to the cooldown timer, and then move on to Q10. Depending on how many hits you got on the run-up, you'll have at least 30 Kenki, giving us 3 Q10s through the opener. Regardless, it's more interesting, but not too much busier. Just make sure you're making use of any Kenki you get. This is probably the point where we have our first real opener. It's still not that much, but we're going to add in a lot of different attacks going forward. The arguably biggest change we will see here is in Shadowbringers. Level 72, Hissatsu Senai. Sharing the same cooldown as Guren, this does 800 potency of damage to a single target. I don't just mean the length of time, I mean if you use either Senai or Guren, both will go on cooldown. Guren is the AoE choice when there are 2 or more enemies. Single target, you will use Sanai instead. Sanai will now just slot into Guren's place in our opener. Level 74, Enhanced Iaijutsu. This simply reduces the cast time of Iaijutsu to 1.3 seconds. It's simple, but also way more useful than you might expect. You can feel the difference almost immediately, especially when trying to slide cast. However, Dawntrail has added a further benefit. You are granted Tsubame-gaeshi ready for 30 seconds if you use Tenka Goken or Midare Setsugekka. What Tsubame-gaeshi? Level 74, Tsubame-gaeshi. Tsubame-gaeshi will instantly repeat the Iaijutsu you used last, with the exception of Higanbana, because Kaeshi Higanbana was worthless. Kaeshi Goken and Kaeshi Setsugekka are the exact same power and effects as the Iaijutsu, just with the cast time removed. It's just a second one, a sort of a combo. You can delay the Kaeshi usage up to 30 seconds, or until your next Iaijutsu use. There's very little reason to do that, if any reason outside of specific opener optimization. I want to make this clear for long-time players who have played Samurai in the past. There is no cooldown. Every single use of Tenka and Midare will give you a use of Tsubame. This is the big reason why the 60-second perfect loop has died and morphed. We'll be getting a ton of extra GCDs from all the extra Midare uses. Tsubame-gaeshi. Level 76, Enhanced Meikyo Shisui. Meikyo Shisui is now a skill with charges, up to 2 of them. The moment you use a charge, the cooldown will begin to tick down. The cooldown is still 55 seconds per charge, so nearly 2 minutes to go from no charges to 2. This is going to massively speed up openers, since we don't need to do full combos to get more sen. We can get 6 sen without a combo, which is a Midare, a Higanbana, and 2 out of 3 sen for the next Midare. We'll be using charges every minute still. Because we'll be going into burst phases mid-rotation, we don't need both charges. We'll go into it with some sen already. The pace differs, so 1 minute burst times are still good for us. Level 78, Enhanced Fugetsu and Fuga. Simply buffs Fugetsu and Fuga from 10% to 13% each. 3% doesn't seem like a lot, but the speed adds up fast and changes the feel. The extra damage is good too, but has no tangible effect on your play like an extra speed boost. Level 80, Shoha. With a near pointless 15-second recast, this does a line AoE for 560 potency of damage to the first enemy, and 196 potency to all enemies beyond the first. To use this, there's an addition to our Kenki gauge. This is meditation stacks, which remember, we have the skill Meditate. Every 3 seconds of Meditate will grant you 1 meditation stack, and Shoha can be used when you have 3 meditation stacks. You cannot store stacks past 3. That's not the main way to use Shoha. Using Iaijutsu will grant you 1 meditation stack. Tsubame-gaeshi does not grant you a meditation, so every 3 uses of Iaijutsu will give you a chance to weave this in. Make sure not to forget about this in both single target and AoE. You've already practiced using a line AoE thanks to Guren, so aiming this should already have some muscle memory. There we go, this is a much more filled out opener thanks to the tools we just received. That second Meikyo allows us to get so much further in gaining sen, while Tsubame-gaeshi extends our GCDs. The same principles all apply as normal. Gain sen, spend sen. Put Higanbana up in the middle since it's our strongest hit. The other difference is Shoha. 2 Midares and a Higanbana is 3 meditation, so we can weave Shoha in. You can put it after Kaeshi Setsugekka if you struggle to weave after an Iaijutsu, but given the other weave after Iaijutsu, you better get used to it. This Shoha is going to move soon anyway. There's also a Gyoten here. You probably think this is weird, but it makes sense. Consider that the last GCD is Yukikaze. You will have 20 Kenki, get 15 from Yukikaze, and have 35. You can't have 25 Kenki before Yukikaze, and are guaranteed to have enough for both Gyoten and Shinten. Also remember that all Kenki spenders we currently have are equally as powerful. 10 Kenki is 100 potency, be it from Gyoten or Shinten. So we're not wasting power. We use Gyoten earlier to get the cooldown rolling. As for AoE, we really go off the rails here. Because of what we do during the run-up, we're all but guaranteed to have Tenka Goken prepared. 2 Meikyos is 3 more, and Tsubame-gaeshi doubles it to 8 Tenka Gokens. Basically, just fit in Guren and Shoha as soon as you can, with spamming Kyuten anytime you don't need to hit Meikyo instead. And with how our GCD timer got faster, this is actually kind of a lot of stuff to do. Luckily, it's only a few buttons. Alright, Shadowbringers is the biggest expansion for us now, though we still have a few things ahead of us to make use of, and some of them really awesome. A bit of that will be coming from Endwalker. Level 82, Third Eye Mastery and Tengetsu. This is a huge buff to Third Eye, which has become Tengetsu. Unfortunately, the recast time is still 15 seconds, and the duration is still only 4 seconds. You have to be just as good at timing as before. The bright side is that if you do get hit, you'll get an additional 9 seconds of the defense boost. Not only that, this is a hot heal over time. Same as Dots, this will heal you for 200 potency every 3 seconds. That's a 600 potency heal in total. Damage is going up. If you've not been using Third Eye, you really should. You'll live longer and get a good deal more DPS. Now it's even stronger, helping us survive any follow-up hits too. We're going to see a lot more multi-hit attacks now. Level 84, Way of the Samurai II. Still poorly worded, Yukikaze, Gekko, and Kasha have been boosted by 10 potency, including when used in combos. It's stronger power, but like, nothing to talk about. Level 86, Fuga Mastery and Fuko. This is one of the weirder upgrades. Fuga has become Fuko. Fuko is a 100 potency hit in a circle around you, the usual 5 yalms. So instead of back and forth AoE shapes with the cone, you only have to deal with Guren lines. Everything else is circles. Fuko also gives 10 Kenki instead of just 5, a significant boost. Level 90, Enhanced Iki Shoten, Ogi-namikiri, and Kashi-namikiri. Oh, well, we got a cone AoE back immediately after. Enhanced Iki Shoten grants you Ogi-namikiri ready anytime you use Iki Shoten. This buff lasts for 30 seconds, meaning you have to use it within that time, but you will almost never need more than a few seconds before you use it. It does an 8 yalm AoE cone toward the target, doing 860 potency to the first target, and 215 potency to all targets after the first. It also has the automatic critical hit and damage boosting crit rate effect Midare has, as well as the cast time. Upon hitting enemies with Ogi-namikiri, it will change into Kashi-namikiri. Just like Tsubame-gaeshi, this is an exact copy of Ogi-namikiri that is instant cast. This is insanely strong, even without the fact that it also gives a meditation stack. You're progressing towards Shoha with Ogi-namikiri. The unfortunate part is you can only ever get it from Iki Shoten, so that puts it on essentially a 2-minute cooldown. So you're still mostly just relying on basic Iaijutsu casts for the Shoha stacks. Technically, this can be weaker than Tenka Goken when looking at just potencies, but the guaranteed critical hit makes it far more powerful than you might think. Tenka Goken can crit, but it's per enemy. Ogi-namikiri will crit on every enemy, so on average, this is quite a bit stronger than Tenka Goken. Also, Meikyo Shisui now says it does not affect Ogi-namikiri, so the fact that it is a weapon skill is not an issue. And on to our next opener. We really only have to fit in Ogi-namikiri. Before I talk about the actual opener, I would like to now really emphasize Tengetsu. You really should be making use of it, if just for the defensive properties. But when used properly, you can get a ton of extra Kenki. If you haven't been practicing, now really is the time with how much stronger it became. There's always going to be at least one open weaving slot in our opener, which means you will sometimes be able to make use of Tengetsu easily. Regardless of how easy it is though, do start timing your parries. That said, all we need to do is fit in Ogi-namikiri. That will be our third stack of meditation, meaning we want to move Shoha up too. Before, we were only able to get it after the second Midare, but now that's the fourth stack. We place it after Higanbana for a mix of timing reasons. Later would mean realistically after the second Midare, which definitely is way too late. We also want the dot running sooner than later, both for tracking our rotation and to ensure the long timer isn't as much an issue. As for AoE, we're going to slot this in right after the first Meikyo finishes up. We still have the same number of Kyutens coming out. Ogi doesn't give us any Kenki after all, though for this reason, you can essentially use it almost any time. Just make sure you're positioning well for Ogi. You had a Konal AoE for such a long time, you should have the practice. Ogi is much more important to aim correctly though. It's not a lot different, but Ogi was a good skill to get. Things aren't going to change too much more. Dawntrail did a lot for the overall toolkit, so let's see what skills it gives at those levels. Level 92, Hakaze Mastery and Gyofu. Hakaze has become Gyofu, which is an improved animation to show off what is otherwise a basic power boost. Cool to see it more fancy, but that's it. Level 94, Enhanced Hissatsu. This is a bit more than just a boost. The shared cooldown of Guren and Sanai has been cut in half. You can now use these every minute. This is a small reason Samurai will be bursting every minute. Just remember, it only costs as much as a single Shinten. If you're holding onto at least a little bit of Kenki, you'll just need to focus on the new short cooldown. It might take a bit to get used to. Level 94, Way of the Samurai 3. This is just a ton of potency boosts. Included is a small buff to Midare and Ogi-namikiri, as well as a larger buff to Higanbana. Tenka Goken did not get a buff though. Level 96, Enhanced Ikishoten 2 and Zanshin. Ikishoten is now triple dipping. Not only is it giving 50 Kenki and Ogi-namikiri, it will also give Zanshin ready for 30 seconds. This is also our first and only example of action change settings. Zanshin can be its own button, or shared with Ikishoten. Be sure to set it up how you like. The attack shape is Ogi-namikiri, or an 8-yom cone. It does 900 potency to the first target, and 360 potency to the second target and beyond. It's only very slightly stronger than Sanai and Guren, but combined into one button. It also costs 50 Kenki for being barely any stronger. Up until now, Ikishoten has been worth a Sanai or Guren plus a Shinten. Now all the Kenki you gain from Ikishoten is dedicated to Zanshin. Our Kenki economy in openers is still enough to fit in both though.
Level 100, Enhanced Meikyo Shisui II and Tendo Iaijutsu. At level 100, Meikyo Shisui will grant the additional Chicken Tendo buff, turning the next cast of Midare Setsugekka or Tenka Goken into their Chicken Tendo equivalents. These become the hardest hitting moves in Samurai's kit, ignoring AoE math that I don't want to look at. We could think of this as a weave that boosts the damage of the next Midare GCD by approximately 50%, but I'm about to say a word which cannot be spoken. The part I found a bit confusing is that you don't have to spend any of the Meikyo stacks to enhance the next Iaijutsu. This might have already been intuitive for you, but it wasn't for me. Please relate to my human experience. Depending on how you've been playing the job, there's a chance you might want to pop Meikyo with all 3 Sen already built up. That's not something you likely did below level 100. When exactly would you want to do that? Please consult this gameplay footage. In practice, very little changes, but it's even more important to line up burst windows and land enhanced Tendo Setsugekkas inside of raid buffs to deal maximum damage. How much damage are we talking about? Like 5 or 6. This is more important for min-maxing, but being a good samurai requires an ingrained 60-second timer acquired through several 100,000 hours of deep introspective meditation called looking at how long Higanbana has left. It also requires group coordination, so when playing with randoms, take this knowledge and simply throw it into the nearest dumpster. If you are curious about studying the blade further, it is important to not overcap Meikyo charges during downtime and phase transitions in something like an ultimate fight, that I'm sure is well within the scope of this video. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. Just practice the basics, give your waifu a big hug, and you'll manage to do adequate damage even after overriding a Tsubame cast, because the prospect of using Tendo Setsugekka was a little too appealing, but don't tell my group that because I don't want them to kick me out.
That covers the full toolkit for Samurai. It's a slow ramp up, with there overall not being many changes to the opener. The overall flow of the job changes more than openers, especially when considering burst windows every minute. So let's take time to review the full opener. This is the standard Samurai opener. Samurai is a job that tends to change their opener on a per fight basis more than any other jobs. Generally, this opener will work even up into high-end content, so it's a baseline to follow. Just keep in mind each fight can have its own optimal opener. Starting with the pre-pull, Meikyo Shisui is used up to 14 seconds before the tank pulls. Given how tanks and casual content work, impatiently, you'll not get anywhere close to that. This early is just enough time to get all 3 GCDs, despite 14 seconds sounding way too early. We also try to pop True North immediately before the tank pulls, because Gekko and Kasha are both positionals and the boss is looking at the party to start. You're going to miss your positionals. True North will remove this problem for the first few GCDs. Gekko and Kasha come first for putting up buffs, with Ikishoten coming in as soon as possible to give us access to its many benefits. Finish off gaining Sen for Tendo Setsugekka, spending Tendo from the pre-pull Meikyo. While we have enough Kenki for Zanshin, Sanai being used is more important, both due to being comparable in power and the fact that it has a unique cooldown. Zanshin is merely tied to Ikki Shoten, so using it at any time while party buffs are up, it's fine. That is why we have Sanai after Tendo, rather than after Yukikaze. Too early and it will miss party buffs. We have plenty of open weaving slots overall, so make use of that spacing. Speaking of that, Tengetsu. You will have a few spots to weave in Tengetsu for free, but depending on the fight, you may actually need to double weave on one of your non-cast skills, reducing damage taken and increasing your Kenki. After Tendo Kaeshi, we'll weave in our second Meikyo. We want to get Higanbana running as soon as possible too, so we'll Gekko or Kasha for one Sen. Zanshin fits in right after because our Kenki is still pretty high. Shinten is used only once the important stuff is used up. Pop out Higanbana and Ogi-namikiri to get 3 meditation stacks and our use of Shoha. Use the second hit and we can return to spending our second Meikyo. Kasha and Gekko both get used since they take 3 GCDs for a Sen instead of 2, as well as their higher potency than Yukikaze. During this, we will get enough Kenki for our first Shinten and a Gyoten. The Gyoten usage fits because we will not have enough Kenki for Shinten until after Gyofu and Yukikaze, regardless of using Gyoten or not. So Gyoten is just more damage, as the Kenki cost between the two skills is equal for their power output. Finish off with your second Tendo Setsugekka now that we've gotten all 3 Sen. From here, any Midares you do will be normal until your next use of Meikyo at the minute mark. Depending on which GCD speed you go for, if just using casual gear, likely a fast GCD, you'll need to adjust your rotation a bit. You'll need to Meikyo at what might feel like a weird time. This will keep you from drifting your Sanai and Higanbana. There's a lot more info that goes into this, and I recommend checking deeper guides to understand it, especially because how you handle it is dependent on your skill speed. Let's get back into our opener though. It's time to do a karaoke opener. A karaoke opener is where I'll be saying the names of skills as they are used. This will give you a better idea of how the opener flows for its duration. Samurai is fast, but it's not as busy as many other jobs. Pre-pull, Meikyo Shisui. True North. Gekko. Kasha, Ikki Shoten. Yukikaze. Tendo Setsugekka. Sanai. Tendo Kaeshi, Meikyo Shisui. Gekko, Zanshin. Higanbana. Ogi-namikiri. Shoha. Kaeshi-namikiri. Kasha, Shinten. Gekko, Gyoten. Gyofu. Yukikaze, Shinten. Tendo Setsugekka. Tendo Kaeshi Setsugekka. When it comes to AoE, things aren't any different here either. Just remember that Zanshin is a conal AoE for aiming purposes. You've been using Ogi-namikiri enough to understand how to aim, or at least you should. This cuts down on how much weaving is needed, since we don't need 2 Kyutens to spend 50 Kenki. Make sure Guren stays first though. Cooldown timers are good to get running earlier than later. Samurai is pretty simple to understand these days. It's when you get into the weeds of loops and how to repair loops that things start to get complex. Generally though, as long as you're hitting stuff on cooldown and refreshing Higanbana when it's going to fall off, you'll be 90% of the way there. Thank you for watching this Samurai 1 to 100 leveling skills guide. Feel free to give feedback or ask questions on what might still be confusing to you. I'm always seeking to improve, as should you. Don't stop with this guide, even if I succeeded in helping you improve. Please leave a rating, comment, sub, those really do help creators. You can also come watch me on Twitch, or even go follow my Patreon. The links in the description will take you where you need to. Also, special thanks to Misshapen Chair for guest appearing at level 100. Be sure to check his Samurai guide for deeper details on how to play it, and far more comedy than here. Have fun in your adventures across Taral, and may the power of Anne and Nidhogg's lay waste to your enemies.